What do you mean you spent what on renovations? My voice shook as I stared across the table at my stepfather, Ryan. $45,000, he said casually, leaning back in his chair like it was nothing. You wouldn't believe how much better the place looks now. Really, Jennifer, you should be proud of yourself. I froze, gripping the edge of the table. Proud? He was talking like I had happily given him the money. But I hadn't. That's my credit card, Dad. You stole from me. Ryan shrugged, his smug smile never leaving his face. Stole is a strong word, Jennifer. We're family. It's not like I took it from a stranger. Besides, you have a good job. You'll earn it back in no time. I stared at him, my mind struggling to process the audacity of what he'd just said. My stepfather had always been selfish, but this was something I never thought he would do. My name is Jessica, and I have spent my entire adult life working hard to build a career I'm proud of. I'm a financial analyst, and saving money is second nature to me. Over the past 7 years, I have worked long hours, skipped vacations, and planned every dollar carefully so I could have a stable future. That $45,000 wasn't spare money lying around. It was years of discipline and sacrifice. It was the comfort of knowing I could handle an emergency or one day put a down payment on my dream home. Ryan, on the other hand, had always been the opposite. He loved to talk big, dream big, and spend big, but never with his own money. Growing up, I learned quickly that he could justify almost anything. He would borrow things he never returned, ignore debts he owed, and turn every favor into a joke. Relax, it's just family, he would always say when caught. But this time, I wasn't laughing. Do you have any idea what that money meant to me? I asked, my voice shaking with anger. Do you even care that you stole from your own daughter? Ryan rolled his eyes like I was overreacting. Oh, stop being so dramatic. It's just money. Just money? That just money represented years of hard work. It was every night I stayed late at the office while my friends went out. It was every luxury I told myself I didn't need. It was security, something he had taken without a second thought. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about respect, trust, and the fact that my own stepfather thought he had the right to take from me simply because we were related. For him, family meant having a free pass. For me, family was supposed to mean love and respect. In that moment, I realized we weren't speaking the same language anymore. I had a few things around the house that needed fixing, and you were in a position to help. My stepfather said like it was the most natural thing in the world. You didn't ask me, I snapped, my voice rising. You stole my credit card without telling me. That's not helping. That's theft. Ryan just shrugged and took another sip of his wine, looking far too relaxed. Well, what's done is done. No point crying over spilled milk. My stomach turned as I stared at him. He didn't look the slightest bit sorry. For years, he had gotten away with being selfish because he was charming enough to talk his way out of trouble. But this time was different. This time, he had crossed a line. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his words echoing in my head. You'll make it back in no time. How could he act like it was nothing after stealing so much from me? I had worked for years to save that money. I had sacrificed vacations, nights out, and little luxuries, all to build a safety net for myself. And now it was gone, just like that, because of him. Finally, I got out of bed and opened my laptop. I logged into my credit card account, my fingers shaking as I scrolled through the recent charges. With every transaction I saw, my stomach twisted tighter. There it was, $9,500 at a home improvement store. Then $25,000 for roofing supplies. Another $10,500 for landscaping. Every single charge was for something he wanted, things that benefited him and only him. I clicked on the details for each one, searching for something that could help me. Then I saw it, the shipping addresses. Every order had been delivered straight to Ryan's house. I felt a flicker of relief. This wasn't just my word against his anymore. I had proof. The next morning, I took a deep breath and called the bank. The woman on the other end of the line listened patiently as I explained everything, how my stepfather had taken my card, how he'd spent thousands without my permission, and how I had found the evidence in my account. "Do you know who made the transactions?" she asked. "Yes," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It was my stepfather." There was a short pause before she spoke again. "In that case, we'll need to escalate this to our fraud investigation team. They may require more information from you. Depending on the situation, law enforcement could also become involved." Law enforcement? The words hit me like a punch. This was not how I wanted things to go. I didn't want police knocking on his door. I didn't want a criminal record attached to his name. But what choice did I have? He had taken what I worked for, and he hadn't shown a single ounce of remorse. Ryan had left me no choice. If he thought he could walk all over me just because we were family, he was about to find out how wrong he was. Later that day, I told my best friend, Barbara, everything. She sat quietly as I poured out my frustration, her face growing darker with every detail I shared. "That's beyond selfish, Jennifer," she said when I finished. "You need to hold him accountable. He can't keep treating you like this." "I know," I said, running my hand through my hair. "But he's my dad. It feels messy." "Messy or not, this isn't just about money," Barbara replied firmly. "It's about respect. And he clearly doesn't respect you." Her words hit me harder than I expected. She was right. This wasn't only about the $45,000 he had taken. It was about boundaries I should have set years ago. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the fraud report I had filed with the bank. Ryan had crossed so many lines in the past, but this was different. This wasn't him forgetting to pay back $40 or borrowing something he never returned. This was a blatant theft, and he didn't even feel bad about it. I couldn't stop replaying the scene from the dinner in my head. His smug smile, his casual shrug, the way he made me feel like I was overreacting. My chest tightened every time I thought about it. It was time to confront him. When I pulled up to his house later that day, he was outside, proudly looking over his newly landscaped yard. The fresh grass, trimmed bushes, and expensive stone walkway made it look like something out of a magazine. "Looks good, doesn't it?" he said, grinning. "All thanks to you." My blood boiled. "Thanks to me?" I snapped. "You mean thanks to the $45,000 you stole from me?" Ryan let out a sigh and shook his head, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Jennifer, we've been through this," he said. "It's family money. I didn't steal anything. I just borrowed it. And honestly, you're better off for it. This place needed serious work." I stared at him, stunned by his nerve. "You didn't borrow anything. Borrowing means you ask first and get permission. You never asked me, Ryan. You just took it." He didn't even flinch. That was the moment I knew Barbara had been right. He didn't see what he did as wrong. He didn't value my work, my savings, or my trust. And if I didn't stand up for myself now, he would keep crossing the line again and again. He crossed his arms, his face turning cold. "You're young. You have plenty of time to earn it back. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? I'm your stepfather, for God's sake. I've done so much for you over the years. Can't you just let this one thing go?" "Done so much for me?" I repeated, my voice shaking. "Like what exactly? You've been taking from me my whole life, Ryan. This is just the first time you got caught." His face darkened. "Watch your tone," he warned. "You're being ungrateful. I didn't even have to raise you, you know. I could have let your mom handle everything on her own." His words cut deep, but I refused to let him see me flinch. "Ungrateful? I'm the one who's had to clean up after your mistakes for years. I've forgiven you for so much, but this is too far." For the first time, Ryan looked uneasy. "What are you saying, Jennifer? Are you really going to take this outside the family?" "I already did," I said firmly. "The fraud investigation is underway. The bank is involved. And if you think I'm going to back down, then you don't know me as well as you think." The next morning, the call came from the bank's fraud team. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee in hand, as the investigator, Mr. Larry, explained the next steps. "We've reviewed the charges and the information you provided," he said. Since the shipping addresses match your stepfather's home, it's clear the transactions were not authorized. We'll need a formal statement from you, and we'll likely send this to local authorities for further investigation." The words local authorities made my stomach twist. Does that mean he could face charges? I asked carefully. Yes, Mr. Larry replied matter-of-factly. This is theft, plain and simple. The amount involved makes it a serious crime. It's up to the police to decide the next steps, but I'd recommend preparing yourself for that possibility. I set my coffee down, my hands trembling slightly. It was one thing to be angry, but now the reality of what might happen was sinking in. My own stepfather could end up facing criminal charges. Still, I knew there was no turning back. He had taken from me without shame, and if I let it go, he would only do it again. I thanked Mr. Larry and hung up, my hands trembling. This was really happening. For years, Ryan had treated boundaries like they were optional. His charm and boldness always seemed to let him get away with things without facing any real consequences. But now, it looked like his actions were finally catching up to him. I grabbed my phone and called Barbara right away to tell her what was going on. "He's going to lose it when the police get involved," I said, pacing the living room. "What if this ruins our relationship forever?" Barbara didn't sugarcoat her response. "Jennifer, what relationship? He's been walking all over you for years, and every time you let it go, he just pushes further. This isn't about ruining anything. It's about protecting yourself." Her words hit me hard. She was right. I had spent so much of my life trying to keep the peace, too afraid to stir things up, that I hadn't realized how much of myself I had given up in the process. "I don't want to feel like this anymore," I admitted, my voice breaking. "Every time I stand up for myself, I feel like I'm the bad guy." "You're not the bad guy," Barbara said firmly. "You're the one person holding him accountable. That takes courage, Jennifer. Don't let him make you feel otherwise." Her words stayed with me as I sat down and looked at the fraud report on my laptop. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about finally setting a clear boundary. Ryan needed to understand that actions have consequences, and if the only way to make him learn that was through a fraud investigation, then so be it. I picked up my phone and called Mr. Larry back. "I'll file the statement today," I told him. The fallout came faster than I expected. That evening, I had just sat down to eat dinner when my phone lit up with Ryan's name. I hesitated before answering, already knowing this wouldn't be a pleasant conversation. "Jessica," he began sharply, "I just got off the phone with the bank. Are you serious about this? You actually filed a fraud report against me?" "Yes, Ryan," I said firmly. "I did. You stole $45,000 from me. What did you think was going to happen?" I said. His voice turned sharp. "I didn't steal it. I told you, it's family money. I was going to pay you back eventually. But now you've gone and made it a federal case. Do you have any idea what kind of trouble this could cause me?" "I didn't make this a federal case," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "You did that the moment you took my credit card without permission. Actions have consequences, Ryan." There was a long pause before he spoke again, his voice low and threatening. "You're being ridiculous. You're blowing this out of proportion just to prove a point. What's next? Are you going to drag me to court too?" "If that's what it takes," I shot back. "You've spent years walking all over me, acting like my boundaries don't exist. This isn't about proving a point. It's about protecting myself." "You're unbelievable," he hissed. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" I laughed bitterly. "Done for me? Like what, Ryan? Taking credit for my hard work? Borrowing money you never paid back? Or maybe you mean all the times you left me to clean up your messes while you disappeared and acted like nothing happened?" The line went quiet for a moment. Then, in a cold tone I had never heard from him before, he said, "You're going to regret this, Jessica." Before I could reply, he hung up. I sat there, my hands shaking with a mix of anger and fear. This was exactly why I had spent so many years avoiding conflict with Ryan, because every time I stood my ground, he twisted things until I felt like the villain. Later, I called Barbara to let off some steam. "He actually told me I'd regret this," I said, my voice tight with frustration. "Let him stew," she said firmly. "He's just angry because he's finally being held accountable. Don't let him scare you into backing down. Her words were comforting, but even after I hung up, the unease stayed with me. I wasn't backing down, but I knew this wasn't over, not even close. 3 days later, the call I had been dreading came. It wasn't from Ryan this time. It was from my mom. The moment I answered, her voice came through sharp and frustrated. Jessica, what are you doing? Your stepfather just called me in a panic. He said you're trying to ruin his life. I took a deep breath, already bracing for the guilt trip I knew was coming. I'm not ruining his life, Mom. He stole $45,000 from me. I reported the fraud to the bank because that's what you do when someone takes your money. He's your stepfather, she snapped, like that was all the reason I needed to let it go. And I'm his daughter, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. But that didn't stop him from stealing from me, did it? Mom sighed heavily, her tone changing to one of tired disappointment. You know how he is, Jennifer. He doesn't mean any harm. He just doesn't think things through. Couldn't you have handled this quietly? Within the family, I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Handled it quietly? I repeated. Mom, he spent $45,000 of my money without asking. How exactly was I supposed to handle that quietly? He's your stepfather, she repeated, as though that explained everything. He's under a lot of stress right now with the house and the bills. He didn't mean to hurt you. My jaw tightened. It's always excuses with him, isn't it? He's always under stress, or he didn't think it through, or he didn't mean it. Meanwhile, I'm the one left cleaning up his messes. Jessica, she said, her voice softening into a pleading tone. Please, just drop this. The investigation is going to destroy him. You know how he gets when he feels cornered. He's already talking about how you're turning the family against him. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the swirl of guilt and frustration building inside me. I'm not turning anyone against him, Mom. He did this to himself, and I'm not dropping it. For the first time, there was silence on her end. When she finally spoke, her voice was colder. Well, don't come crying to me when this all blows up in your face. You've made your decision, just remember that. She hung up, leaving me staring at my phone. Her words felt heavy. I wanted to cry, but instead I called Barbara. Mom thinks I'm overreacting, I said, pacing the living room. Of course she does, Barbara replied. She's spent her whole life enabling him. But this isn't about her, Jennifer, it's about you. You're doing the right thing. As much as I wanted to believe her, I couldn't shake the sinking feeling in my stomach. A week later, the fraud investigation started moving quickly. I got an update from the bank's fraud department. Every charge had been officially flagged as unauthorized, and law enforcement had been notified. Mr. Larry, the investigator, told me that local police might contact me soon to confirm my statement. The news brought both relief and anxiety. For years, Ryan had acted like consequences were for other people. He had always managed to talk his way out of trouble, using charm or guilt to shift the blame. But now there was a paper trail, and it was out of my hands. Later that afternoon, while I was sitting in my office at work, my phone buzzed with a text from Barbara. How's it going with the fraud thing? Any updates? I quickly typed back. Bank is escalating it. Police are getting involved soon. I'm nervous, but it's the right thing to do. Her reply came instantly. Proud of you. You're stronger than you think. Her words gave me a small but real sense of comfort. It was a reminder that I wasn't alone in this. That evening, I went to Ryan's house. I hadn't planned on confronting him again, but I couldn't stop myself. The closer I got to his place, the angrier I felt. When I knocked on the door, he opened it with a smug grin. Jessica, he said, leaning against the door frame. Come to lecture me some more? No, Ryan, I said evenly. I came to tell you that the bank has escalated the fraud case. The police will be contacting you soon. His smile faded for the first time, but he quickly tried to recover. The police? Oh, come on, Jennifer. You're not really going to let it go that far, are you? It's not up to me anymore, I replied. You made this bed, and now you're going to lie in it. He stepped back, crossing his arms. You're really going to let the police come after your own stepfather? For what? A little misunderstanding. Stop calling it a misunderstanding, I snapped. You stole from me, Ryan. This isn't about family or generosity. It's about you finally facing the consequences of your actions. His face darkened, and he stepped closer. Don't act like you're better than me, Jessica. You wouldn't even have that money if it weren't for me raising you. I laughed bitterly. Raising me? You mean using me as your personal ATM? That ends now. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, his confidence clearly shaken. The next few days passed in a blur. The police called to schedule a meeting, asking me to bring all relevant documents, my fraud report, bank statements, and transaction history. Sitting in that small, plain room at the police station felt strange. As I handed over the papers, I couldn't help but wonder how Ryan would handle being questioned by the authorities. Thank you for your cooperation, Miss Frank, the officer said after I finished giving my statement. We'll be contacting Mr. Frank shortly to hear his side of the story. His side of the story. I almost laughed thinking about Ryan's side of the story. I knew it would be full of excuses and ways to shift the blame. But this time, his charm wouldn't save him. There was clear evidence linking the charges to his address, and no amount of sweet talking could erase the paper trail. That evening, my mom called. Her voice was sharper and more accusing than the last time we spoke. The police showed up at your stepfather's house today. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was for him? I sighed, already bracing for another guilt trip. Mom, I told you this was coming. He brought it on himself. I didn't force him to steal my credit card. She didn't seem to hear me. He says you're trying to ruin his life, Jessica. How can you do this to your own family? I'm not ruining his life, I said firmly. I'm holding him accountable. If he didn't want this to happen, he shouldn't have stolen from me. It's that simple. There was silence for a moment, then a heavy sigh. You've made your point, Jennifer, but don't you think this has gone far enough? I clenched my jaw, pushing down the frustration building inside me. It's not about making a point. It's about boundaries. I've spent years letting him cross them, and I'm done. If you can't understand that, I don't know what else to say. She hung up without another word, leaving me with the same hollow feeling I'd had after our last conversation. Still, despite the tension, I felt a strange sense of relief as I drove home that night. For the first time in years, I was standing up for myself. Ryan had always taken without asking, always assumed I'd forgive and forget. But now he was learning that actions have consequences. And that knowledge was more satisfying than I could have imagined. The fallout from the investigation hit Ryan harder than I expected. The police made it clear the evidence against him was strong. Unauthorized transactions, shipping addresses linked to his home, and the fraud report I had filed with the bank. He couldn't talk his way out of this one, no matter how much charm or how many excuses he tried to throw around. When I heard that Ryan had been officially charged with theft, a flood of emotions hit me all at once. There was relief, finally. Someone was holding him accountable. For years, he had managed to dodge consequences, using charm or guilt to get his way. But now, there was no escape. This time, it wasn't just me standing up to him. There was a legal system making him answer for what he'd done. But along with the relief, there was sadness. As much as I wanted him to face the results of his actions, it was still painful to see my own stepfather brought so low. No matter what he had done, he was still my dad, and part of me wished things had never reached this point. That night, my mom called again. This time, her tone was quieter, softer than before. Your stepfather's a mess, Jennifer, she said, her voice trembling. He's scared. He doesn't know what to do. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Maybe he should have thought about that before he stole from me, I said calmly. You really won't help him? She asked, almost pleading. You're his daughter. And he's my stepfather, I replied. But that didn't stop him from stealing from me, did it? He's not the victim here, Mom. I'm done letting him play that card. For the first time, she didn't argue with me. There was a long silence on the other end before she finally said, I just hope you're doing okay through all this. Her words caught me off guard. I wasn't used to her checking in on me. It was usually about smoothing things over for Ryan. I'm fine, I said after a moment. Then I realized it was the truth. Actually, I'm better than fine. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control of my life again. After we hung up, I sat on the couch, letting the weight of everything sink in. This wasn't just about the $45,000 or the fraud report. It was about more than that. It was about finally standing up for myself after years of letting him push past every boundary I set. Ryan had spent years taking advantage of my generosity and trust, always assuming I'd forgive and forget. And for years, I had allowed it, convincing myself it was easier to let things slide than to fight. But not anymore. For the first time, I had drawn a line that would not be crossed again. The process had been painful, full of tension, guilt, and difficult conversations. But as I sat there, I realized something important. The guilt that had weighed on me for weeks was fading, slowly replaced by something else, something stronger. It was the feeling of closure, of self-respect, of finally taking my power back. And that feeling was worth everything I had been through. I hadn't felt this kind of pride in years. The day I got the final update from the bank, I knew without a doubt that I'd made the right choice. They confirmed that all the fraudulent charges had been reversed and the money had been returned to my account. For the first time in weeks, the tight knot in my chest loosened. I had done it. I had stood up to Ryan, faced the fallout with my family, and reclaimed what was mine. The old me might have let it go, telling myself it wasn't worth the trouble. But this time, I had drawn a line and I hadn't backed down. Ryan, on the other hand, wasn't doing so well. According to Mom, he was trying to work out a plea deal to avoid jail time. He's devastated, she told me during our last call. But I think he finally understands how much he hurt you. I wasn't so sure about that. Ryan had always been skilled at playing the victim when it suited him. Whether or not he truly understood didn't matter anymore. This was no longer about him, it was about me. Over the next few weeks, I felt a new sense of clarity. My relationship with Mom was still strained, but I could live with that. I had spent too many years tiptoeing around Ryan's ego and bending over backward to keep the peace. I wasn't going to do that anymore. One evening, Barbara came over with a bottle of wine to celebrate the end of it all. She poured us each a glass and raised hers toward me. "To you," she said with a smile, "for proving that boundaries are non-negotiable." We clinked our glasses and I laughed. "I guess I needed a $45,000 wake-up call," I said. "Better now than never," Barbara replied. "You're stronger than you think, Jennifer. Don't forget that." Her words stayed with me. In the weeks that followed, I poured myself into my work with a renewed focus and determination. My savings account was whole again, but more importantly, I had learned a lesson that would stay with me for the rest of my life. Trust is earned, not given freely, even when it comes to family. As for Ryan, I didn't know what the future held for our relationship. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid to keep my distance. I wasn't afraid to say no. I had taken back control of my life. And that, I realized, was worth far more than any amount of money.